All right, we'll get started. Good morning. I'm Jeff Colby, the Public Works Director. We've got Lori Rizal, our Wastewater Superintendent here. We've got Ryan Chase. He's our Assistant Wastewater Superintendent, and we have some representatives from Robert B. Auer that'll help us in talking through the construction and answer any questions that you might have. Thank you for coming. This is a huge project for the town of Yarmouth. There's a lot of moving pieces. It's very complicated, and we really appreciate your interest, and we want to get regular updates to you when we can. We did one of these right after Labor Day in the fall, so as we're heading into the spring and construction season, we wanted to get some more information out to you. One of the things I wanted to say was we've got a map here in the presentation about the 8 phases of the Yarmouth wastewater plan. So we're in phase 1. We're making some good progress in a couple of contracts that we will talk to you about today. But it is a long plan in order to provide clean water for the community. And we are excited about reviewing the progress that we've made. Primarily, the contracts that we're working are contracts 2 and 3 and 4 is starting up. So because that's some new work that you haven't seen yet, we want to make sure we're focusing on that as well. And there's also been some questions, I understand, about contracts 5 and 6, which are other collection system contracts. And those we do not have signed contracts for. So that work is likely to be beginning in the fall and not this spring. And then we're going to answer any questions that you might have. We also want to get your feedback as part of this process so we can make improvements as we go. So just to cover some of the wastewater information quickly, you're probably all very familiar with why we're doing this, but we like to cover a couple of slides really quickly, and we can go back to them if you'd like, if you have questions about kind of the process and why we're doing what we're doing. But we're dealing with nitrogen-sensitive areas in Yarmouth, and we have 3, Lewis Bay, Parkers River, and Bass River. And so this wastewater project will remove nitrogen from septic systems by putting in a central sewer collection system. I like to always cover a couple of basic slides before we start because there's always new people coming in and questions that arise about that. The option, if we don't do a central system, is expensive, innovative alternative septic systems, and I think some of the businesses out there and some of the residents have these, and so these are things we're able to avoid or get rid of with a centralized sewer system. So look at the next slide, Lori. So I kind of alluded to this before, but there are 8 phases, and it's roughly 5 years a phase. So one of the biggest questions we get is, when are you doing my area? When can I connect? When is construction happening near me? There's a lot of good information on the town website. We'll be putting that information up at the very end where you can look. You can click on a QR code to go and look at that if you have questions. There's a very good interactive tool on the town website. You can put your address in. It'll tell you exactly what phase you're in. Next slide, Lori. So these are the phase 1 contracts we want to focus on today because several of them are actively being worked. Contracts 2 and 3 are those 2 that are actively being worked. And contract 4 will be starting shortly, and we'll have Abby from Robert B. Auer come and talk about that and the specific schedule for that shortly. And I mentioned 5 and 6 already. Contract 1 is the treatment plant, and that contractor is mobilizing this month. So that's about half the cost of the overall plan because Yarmouth does not have a wastewater treatment plant, but that's just a rough picture of what that's going to look like, rendering, if you will. And it's going to be completed in late 2027. So that's probably the second most question we get is, hey, when can I connect? We can't have people connect until the treatment plant is completed, and that's in late 2027, according to the contract we have. We'll do everything we can to try to, speed up construction on that, but that is the critical, timeline with regard to the overall project. That has to be up and running before people can connect. So next slide, Lori.
It's at 99 Buck Island Road behind the water department.
Oh, yes. Yeah, feel free to ask any questions as we go through, or we can touch on them at the end. Yes, Mary.
Jeff, if you can, when you're speaking, Jeff, when you're speaking about contract 2, contract 4, can you just clarify for the business owners where those locations are? Because
Sure.
Some are not familiar with what contract 2 includes.
So this map is one that's very important for this current phase that we're in. There's one in the hallway here at Town Hall. I know the Chamber has one. We have some at several of the other buildings, and it's on the website. So I do speed through that very quickly, and I apologize for that, but just being familiar with it, that's why we do that. But I'll take some time here to talk about what that looks like. Contract 1, again, is the treatment plant, so that's why it was numbered that way. Contract 2 is from all of these are along Route 28 except for in Old Main Street, except for Contract 3, which has a piece of South Shore Drive. Along Contract 2, that's roughly from Long Pond Drive, where that meets Route 28, all the way to nearly the Four Corners, which is Route 28 at Old Main Street, North Main Street. The reason we broke Contract 4 out, which is in the blue on this diagram, and we have a map up here in front, and if you want to take a look afterwards, we're happy to kind of walk that through with you if you want to know exactly where your business or property is relative to all these contracts. But we broke out that Contract 4, which is the blue one, because very shortly here, the Bass River Bridge is being replaced by Mass DOT, and we wanted to get that deep sewer work done prior to them starting that work. And so that's why that's a separate contract and a little accelerated from the Bass River Bridge construction so that we can be completed with the deep sewer work. One of the things I want to say about sewer construction, it is very impactful, as I'm sure you all know. Many of these excavations are very deep, 15 to 25 feet deep, so they're difficult, they're slow. Frankly, they're dangerous, but we have good contractors here that are going to get that accomplished for us. And that's why there is so many detours or areas where vehicles can't travel because of that dangerous, impactful, deep construction. But with that said, on Contract 4, we want to get that done before the Bass River Bridge project begins. We're not really here to talk about that project today, but I'm happy to answer questions on that I'm aware of. That's a Mass DOT project, and that's expected to begin in the fall of this year as well. Then there's Contract 3, which is roughly where Contract 2 leaves off, which is Long Pond at Route 28 and goes all the way to the Parkers River Bridge. That includes South Shore Drive as well, and connecting pieces along Seaview between South Shore and Route 28. And then there's Contract 5, which on this diagram is in orange. That's from the Parkers River Bridge to Higgins Kroll Road. Higgins Kroll Road is one of those dividing points, and that's where Contract 6 picks up at Higgins Kroll Road all the way to the Barnstable Town Line. So this project will put in the backbone of the system. I didn't spend too much time talking about that before, but this is the deep collector sewer system for the entire system for Yarmouth. Does that answer the question, Mary? Yes, Tom.
We're recording this, folks, and that's why we'd like you to use the mic.
Yes, good morning. Thank you very much. So our Phase 1 has 6 different contracts. It makes the loop down 28 over to Buck Island to get processed. That's still a 2.5-year window, and then you have a year for the DEP to go through that, and then no one hooks up until they get a letter from the town. Is that correct?
That's correct. I've already been talking with people that are very anxious to connect, so there is the possibility that some people would be able to connect a little bit early, but it'll be about the time that we can receive connections that we'll be sending out those letters. What the Board of Health has decided that they'd like to give people 2 years to connect, and so we don't want to send those letters out till we're absolutely ready to go, but it'll be shortly after we're ready to receive flows at that end of 2027, early 2028 timeframe.
Thank you very much. So after the Phase 1 is done, about 2.5, 3 years, we're going to have about 1,000 people, maybe 1,000 users looking to hook up with maybe 2 or 3 contractors available. How does all that work?
That's a good question. I think there is going to be a challenge for contractors that can make these types of connections, but we do expect to have a list available of authorized contractors, very similar to the Board of Health has for septic systems. The type of construction is very similar, and so I expect there'll be more than 2 or 3 that can do that type of work. There's a very limited number of large contractors that can do the collection system work for the town, but there's a much larger pool of contractors that can do the individual connections. So I believe the Board of Health list currently for septic systems has, 12 plus contractors available. We'll have a very similar list for sewer connections.
Yeah, just one more follow-up. So would it be to the business owner's advantage to maybe work together with a contractor and kind of like get 6 properties at once? Or is that like financially viable?
That would be a great idea, absolutely. I've been talking with a couple of condo complexes as well, and if they can get together and kind of do all of theirs at once, that absolutely makes sense. I think buying in bulk, if you will, you're going to enjoy a cheaper cost for connection, absolutely. It's a good idea. Yes, sir.
Quick question. These are labeled contract 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is that the order in which those parts of the project are being done? 1 first and then 2?
Not exactly. I mean, that's roughly how it seems to be unfolding, but that wasn't necessarily the intent. The intent was this is a $207 million project, and we just had to break it into small, manageable chunks, if you will. Even at those contracts, we're looking at something that's roughly $20 million for each one of those contracts. Those are big contracts, so that's just the way it's kind of worked out, that it's fallen kind of in the numerical order, but that wasn't necessarily the case. If 5 or 6 was ready to go, which they're not quite there yet, we could have jumped them ahead of something else, but it is roughly unfolding that way. Yes, sir. All right, Laura, do you want to add anything before we jump into the specifics on contract 2 and 4?
Yeah, I guess the only thing to add would be contracts 2 and 4 are both being completed by Robert B. Hour Company, and they're here. So their work goes just in terms of landmarks from the Pancake Man all the way to the Bass River Bridge, with the break in contract 2 and 4 at the Ambassador Inn. So just for your landmarks to know which one you're in, contract 2 is from the Pancake Man to the Ambassador, and 4 is from the Ambassador to the bridge. So just turn it over to Abby now.
Okay, great, thank you.
Good morning. I'm Abby with Robert B. Hour Company. I have maps up here for anybody who's interested. Contract 2, which is what we started first from the Pancake Man. The gravity sewer pipe is largely installed. So we've checked that box. The sewer laterals have been completed to the property line. Next, we'll be working on installation of the water main and water services, which will start hopefully mid-March, and then be finished in May, and that will mean that all the utility infrastructure is then in the street. So the good news is most of that will all be behind us by May, which will leave the final temporary paving to happen sometime September, October, November of next year, or next season rather. Contract 4 is the intersection work, which we're going to be starting in about 2 weeks. We're going to be working from the intersection of Old Main and North Main towards the hardware store first. We're going to be doing that section, and then we'll back up and do Old Main, North Main towards the Bass River Bridge. Very similar, I know I see a lot of familiar faces from last time. Very similar between the contracts is you're going to have multiple, what I call touch points. We'll be in front of your property a couple times. We progress with the main line installation, and then we back up when we do the sewer laterals, which is what your property will feed into. And then some properties require new water services. We do that, and then we come back and we do a final paving. So our section of paving is still what we call temporary. We'll put another final course on it. It will make it nice and smooth. I know that there's some heartburn over the paving, but it is all temporary, and it will come out, and it will be what we consider a final, right? It'll look almost brand new, too brand new, through the whole section that we're working in. So I know if anybody has any specific questions about their property, if you're in contracts 2 or 4, I'd be happy to answer them. I can't answer anything in contract 3 because I'm not privy to any of their scheduling stuff. Jeff can answer any of those questions. I'm
Thank
not
you.
great with cross streets, so if you can help me with landmarks, that would be
Well, I'm in Gray's Hardware.
okay. We've
so
talked. Yep.
Are we talking paving complete now, or that's going to be next fall?
That'll be September, October. You're
Okay, so-
you're temporary paved,
So what we have now is what exists through the summer.
correct?
All right. So in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you're going to continue the process from my store to the bridge
Yes.
in front of the ambassador the whole way down?
We are going from essentially yours towards
Bridge.
like the Riverview and Bridge, correct? Or the Riverway.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. What does that include? So we're going to do more pipe from where we are to the bridge?
Correct.
So what was completed then in front of my store now?
That goes from your store all the way to the pump
Pancake.
station, which is at the Pancake Man.
So they're just going to continue forward?
It's going to continue forward, correct? The Pancake Man is where the pump station is. So a lot of the sewer flows to that pump station next to the Pancake Man, and it essentially pushes from there to the treatment plant.
So not to dumb it down. So I'm looking for road closure from Four Corners again, all the way down.
You're looking at a road closure from Four Corners to Pond.
Same as the fall. So
Yep.
we're in the same place we were all along,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yep.
And that's going to be through May?
No, I would anticipate that be about 3 to 4 weeks.
Then road open or?
And road open.
Okay.
We're really trying hard to accomplish as much as we can during the winter time. And the state gives us a very short leash, right? So we've pushed the envelope as far as we can with the state with what they allow. And unfortunately, that means some has to wait till the spring, some of the work, and some of it we can do now.
Well, so egress wise, like is Mill Street behind us where you guys are, there's a lot of sand and all that, is that going to be closed again? I mean, we don't have a lot of ways in and out.
Well, it won't be closed at the same time.
So, okay, just like it is now. So,
Back entrance will,
Just so they can hear. It's on the record.
sorry, I'm Mike Donovan, I'm the superintendent for the project. We're not going to have crews behind you and in front of you at the same time.
okay.
So Mill Street will still be our access, free and clear, while they're working on 28.
All right, because it's just deliveries and trucks and things, and I just need to make sure that we
Yeah,
have
and
access.
just same as before, we work together, you come out, talk to us, tell me whatever you need, and we'll get you in.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so one of the things I just wanted to add, just to make sure it's perfectly clear, and Abby mentioned multiple touch points, and that's because we're putting in water and wastewater. I focused early on wastewater. That's actually the more time-consuming of the two, but we're putting in two, new utilities throughout the corridor, just to make sure that that gets done and we're good for another 50 to 75 years. So that's why this is taking longer than it would if it were just one utility.
Abby, I got a question, Jim from the Green Spot. When we talked at Labor Day at the last meeting, you told me that you thought, I realize you thought, the water line would be done from Forest Road past the Green Spot last fall.
Yes.
Now you're just saying, you're going to do it in May?
We're going to do it in the spring. We're going to be doing it in March, April, and the beginning of May, yes.
So is spring, March, April? Is it May, June? And my other question is, how long are you guys going to work this year? Because last year you guys got to work until, I think, June 14th or something like that. So what is the time frame?
Okay, so the state, this is called a permit project with the state, right? So the town had to apply for the state to allow them to work on Route 28. They set guidelines for when we can pave and when we can work. Generally, the permit ends at the end of May, and they say no more work. Last summer, beginning of May, end of May to early June, we asked the state for a waiver to work for 3 more weeks, which brought us past some critical points so that certain businesses we weren't right in front of you again in September. So that's what we did, and we got the first 3 weeks in June. I don't foresee us needing the first 3 weeks in June this summer, because when I say all we have left, we have water to install, and that's a relatively fast-moving process. And water services are generally fast-moving, so I don't anticipate needing June this season. I know it's a roundabout answer, and we try our best to pinpoint everything, but it really flexes depending on what they let us do, how fast we move, the weather. It all comes into play.
I just had a question about February break. Are the plans to keep the detour during February break or remain open?
Yeah, I can comment on February break as it relates to both the contractors that are working. We're trying to minimize the impact during that week, leave as much open as possible. Work will likely have to continue. We're trying to scale it back to see if areas off Route 28 can be focused in that period for at least one of the contracts. But this really is the big push to finish up and get done as early in this spring as we can. And every week that we completely take off from doing work just means it pushes it further into the spring. So it is, as I mentioned before, kind of a complicated project, and it's a delicate balance of getting work done and as soon as possible. But with that said, we've already taken some steps where the work along Route 28 can be minimized in some areas and completely avoided in others during the February break.
Yes, thank you. I'd just like to say to the Robert B. Hour Company, thank you for all you're doing. You do great work, and I wish you guys could, multiply, but however, you are who you are, and thank you for that, for doing such good work and with quality. So my question would be towards the water line. You're putting in the sewer and you're putting the stubs to the property. The water line is now being installed. What's the process of getting those stubs to the property? Are you going back after you're putting the main line in, or are you tying them together? There's new hydrants. I would imagine the old hydrants are being ripped up. So once that water line goes in, you're still going to have to go back and work in front of everybody's property?
Correct. So that's a great question. So once the water main is installed, we follow a pressure test and chlorinate process, and we send water samples out to the state that confirm that it's clean water, it's good water, and then from there we come back and we do a water service from the main to your current curb stop, right? That will require an intermittent loss in water that we will coordinate with each property individually, right? And then that will be a brand new water service from the street to your property line, essentially. It's where your current water shutoff is now. We tie into that. So there will be, one more activity with a loss of water associated with each property that gets a new water service.
Yes, sir. Up here, Paul.
My name is Ken Rogers. I own a business in the Stop and Shop Plaza in Long Pond Drive. So can you sort of explain what you just did for that gentleman, where you are in the process for Long Pond Drive from Route 28 to Forest? I mean, how far along are you? What more work has to be done? Things like that. It's been, you guys are doing an awesome job, but it's been super disruptive to business. The signage isn't very good. Customers don't know that they can come down our road a lot of times. So it's been, excruciatingly disruptive to that area. So just wondering where we are in the process, I guess. As far as the signage goes, I guess, we were kind of commiserating. There's the sign that says, open to business, but that's kind of stuck off to the side of the, almost on the sidewalk, and all, people come down from Forest onto Long Pond Drive, and all they see is road closed. And, sometimes they can't come in from Route 28, that side's blocked, and that side, it looks like it's not passable. So I'm here to say I wish you could do a better job of highlighting that sign, maybe putting it towards the inside to say, businesses are open. Because we have a lot of customers that are going elsewhere because they think we're closed, because they think the road is closed.
Okay, so we can definitely look at the signs a little bit, right? We are restricted on what we can put in the street. It's, unfortunately, I have to follow strict guidelines for traffic safety.
Yep.
I know that's probably not the answer you want to hear, but there's very strict things that I can and cannot do.
Yeah.
So we can definitely look at maybe making the sign a little bit bigger or trying to.
Look at, even just looking at that sign, I know it's a picture, but it's hard to see. It's hard to read, and that's what customers,
Right. Like I said, they
bigger and maybe put that
I
towards
can't
the
make it.
inside.
See, these are the things. Like I can try and make it a little bit bigger. I can't change the color. I'm actually not allowed to change the color. That's a traffic sign.
White one, and then they just.
But there's certain signs that can be white, and then there's certain signs that have to be orange, right? And there's strict rules that I have to follow when they're in the street. So I can definitely look at that. I can try and make the sign a little bit bigger, and we can try and adjust the position a little bit, but I can't wholesale, like,
Yeah.
make it a different color or put it in a different spot without making sure that I follow the guidelines.
Yeah, I mean, as easy as, putting that one on the inside and then putting the road closed on the other side, at least then the first thing people see is, oh, okay, I can go down that road and go to those businesses.
Right,
As opposed to the first thing they see is road closed.
right.
So,
I can definitely try.
yeah, so can you talk about where you are on that part of the project?
The sewer is complete on Long Pond Drive. There's a lot of water that needs to be redone from Alewife Drive to the intersection of Forest Road.
Okay, on the other side.
We have to tie over the old, there's two water mains down that street. We have to remove people from one water main and put them on another water main as part of the Route 28 feeds coming up into that area. So that work still has to be done. So the road will be closed from Alewife Drive to Forest Road for us
Yep.
at some point in time while we do all those tie-overs. As far as the sewer goes, we're complete.
Right, and I don't anticipate the Stop and Shop Plaza having a loss of water due to water main installation.
No, we're not touching that end. We've already done, anything that would impact you is done, that could have impacted you.
New water lines?
That piece of Long Pond Road did not get new water.
You have a 20-inch water main up in there. You don't need a new one.
Yeah.
Okay, good, great. So what more work is being done between Route 28 and Forest in the near future?
Water
On
tie-overs.
Pond Drive.
The water tie-overs, what I just explained.
Isn't that the other side of,
It's on Long Pond.
That's it.
yeah,
Your section is done.
okay, great.
It's just from Alewife Drive to Forest.
So there won't be any more roadblock at the Pancake Man coming into Long Pond?
That's not up to us.
Yeah.
You got to remember, there are two contracts that meet up there. So the road that's closed right now is not because of us, it's because of the other contract.
I'm on
Because
Powder Sewer.
it's the way the traffic has to flow through the area,
Yeah, okay,
okay?
great, thank you.
So cost prohibitive, right? I guess there's no, how many digital signs can you have? Like, for instance, if you're going to have road closed at Four Corners, and you have a little square sign on the bottom right-hand side, as this gentleman was saying, it's difficult to see. I mean, like, again, my hardware store, there was no one on the road working for a good month, and there was still a road closed sign.
Yeah.
And that was a kick in the pants, right? I mean, what are you going to do? But is there a digital sign? I mean, I know they're somewhere, like on Pond Street, I think I see one, something that screams business is open.
Yeah,
There's one right there in front of you.
No, it's down on Pond Street, not in front of me.
we have two digital signs
What I'm
in
saying
town,
is that,
so we
like,
can
Four
redeploy
Corners
them.
wouldn't, if there was one at Four Corners taking a right, that said, if you go into the bird, anywhere in Hearth and Kettle Plaza, wherever it is, you don't know that it's open.
Yeah, we can definitely relocate the two digital message boards we have.
Okay.
Yep.
And then the other thing is, when you're saying contracts, I'm a little confused. You're talking like contract 2 and 4, but you're referring to Robert B. Hour and the other vendor when you're saying contract, right? I just want to make sure that I'm clear with what you're saying.
Robert B. Hour's contracts are contracts 2 and 4, and we go from essentially the Bass River Bridge to the Pancake Man.
Okay.
That's inclusive of both of those contracts, and we're Old Main. So from the Pancake Man or Skull Island, that is another
contract.
contractor.
Okay, so I was just hearing the word contract so many times, I was getting confused. But, so right now, just so I'm clear, I'll use the ambassador for Peter, for example. So is the sewer done from there to the bridge? Or is
The
that gonna-
sewer is done, we still have to do the piece from the intersection of Old Main and North Main, and we stop essentially at Ambassador and.
With store right there.
Exactly.
Then after that, then they're doing water?
Then we do water, yes.
And all that's going to be started in 2 weeks and done by May?
No, we're not doing water in that section. We're doing water from the Ambassador to, all we have left is from the Ambassador to McDonald's.
Okay.
What I'm passing out are some
McDonald's.
contract 4 information. I think it's, Abby put this together. It's very good, very detailed as far as kind of a phasing. And so that is work that still needs to happen. So there's a bunch of copies there. Please take one and and pass those around. What I want to say about the digital message signs as well is each of the contractors has a couple that are on their contract. The town also has some. So if there's things we need to be doing more with the digital message signs, let us know, and we can deploy other assets that we have for that. So we will definitely look at that. Yes, ma'am.
Is it okay to discuss, like, closer things to, let's see, with the Irish villages? Can we discuss that? We've been dealing with it since, I don't know, how long has it been, Mo? Since October.
Sure, I'll talk about contract 3, the work that's left there. We just want to finish with 2 and 4. If there's any other questions, we can come back to 2 and 4 too.
Right.
But I'm happy to talk about 3 if we're mostly ready to move on.
And I'll just say, I'll stay after the meeting. I give everybody my email address. If you have specific questions about your property, Mike and I are happy to answer them. We can meet you out at your property and help discuss anything that you need. So we are here. And like I said, I have maps up here for anybody that wants to see them at the end.
One question. My name is Peter. I'm from the Ambassador. Can a property have 2 laterals? We are getting to. So does it impact the billing? Does it mean we will have 2 meters or?
No, the meter's based upon your water. So if you have whatever you have for your water meters now, the billing will be based upon that.
Okay. And if anything left for the water main, can that be done along with the sewer to minimize the disruption?
No, unfortunately, they're 2 separate operations. And the reason for that is the sewer is much deeper than the water. So we have to install the deepest piece first.
Okay.
We tie the water, the entrance closest to here.
Yeah.
We tied in just beyond that. So that should remain open. We don't have the water main on that section. So one entrance should stay open while they're doing that, because we've already come by it.
Well, that's good to know. Thank you.
That's the tie-in.
All right, any other questions on these 2 contracts before we move on to the other?
Yes, thank you very much. Just contract 4, Mr. Colby, down at the Four Corners. We're running waste coming up Old North Main Street, and we have waste at 28, and then we have North Main and Station. Just a brief synopsis on how that's all going to be worked and detoured, and then I'm assuming from what you said, by the end of May you'll be out of there. So, I mean, it's a very congested area, and we have 18-wheelers that just can't make some of these roads. I just don't understand, so thank you.
Yeah, so I actually can't speak to the detour, planned detour route right now. We have been coordinating with the town of Yarmouth and the town of Dennis Police Department because the bridge obviously intersects both towns. So we're, I would say, in the middle of flushing that out right now, and once we get that settled, the police will disperse it, the town will disperse it, and we'll post it as much as we can.
Yeah, so I think the detours will be minimal from the intersection west. Where the detour will be more significant is from the intersection towards the bridge. That's right in the middle of the road. Again, it's very deep excavation. For smaller vehicles, they might be able to take one of the side streets, but to your point, Tom, the larger vehicles will likely be a large detour around High Bank or the next closest location to get around that area for larger vehicles while that's happening. The good news is the schedule that Robert Bauer has for that is relatively condensed, but it will require a bigger detour around that leg of the intersection, if you will. All right, well, we can come back to these, but I did want to get into contract 3. Thank you, Abby. What Lori's put on the screen here is the detour associated with the remaining work for contract 3. The good news is the end is in sight for the excavation work along Route 28 for contract 3, which again is from the Parkers River Bridge to the Long Pond intersection, roughly the Pancake Man. What they have left to do is the water main that's happening this week and will be done this week as well. That's really approaching the intersection. It's a relatively short section, approaching the intersection with Long Pond where Robert Bauer left off. So we actually have to make the connection of the water main, which is why it was phased, if you will. Robert B. Auer finished, and then Rivoli will be tying into that this week to finish the water main in that section. Then the deepest section for the sewer construction for contract 3 will be happening. It is identified by that bottom detour and road closed area that's shown on that map. I can point it out here as well, from Parker's River Bridge to Seaview. That's the deepest section as it approaches the pump station that's going to be here at the Parker's River Boardwalk Park. Again, very deep, right in the middle of the road. And unlike other portions, I know that's been a lengthy process, but we've been able to send traffic down and around, using South Shore or Pine Grove or some of the side streets to get them more quickly around the excavation work that was happening between Seaview and the Pancake Man. But unlike that, when they work between Seaview and Parker's River, which is happening starting next week, that's roughly a 3 or 4 week period. There's no good detour around that other than Forest and Winslow Gray. So that is why we've been trying to avoid that longer detour until now, until it's unavoidable, essentially. So that's why we've put some information on the website about that longer detour being in place for the next few weeks until they're finished with their water and sewer work. Any questions about that? That answer your question about?
Just the detour for this week and next week, it's the same detour. It's just a matter of where the work is actually happening. So if your business is kind of in between the two work locations, that's the tricky part because you have to access it the other way. So that's why we're trying to show on these two maps. They look the same, but they're actually different because the work is happening in a different location. And the one thing I wanted to add was that we do put exactly what's closed in Waze. So if you have customers that can use a mapping system, a GPS, that is the best way because we only close the section that's actually closed. So there'll be a sign that says road closed, business is open. They'll need to go by those if their GPS is sending them that way. That's kind of the best way if you have people that can use GPS to navigate to any place because we are closing only the little section that needs to be closed, and so a GPS will tell them to pass the road closed signs coming from the right direction. So just wanted to add that for those that can do that.
And the schedule for this contract has that big detour, that disruptive work, if you will, being completed in early March. So this is the time that we're trying to get that taken care of in the January, February timeframe, which is why we waited till now to have that more disruptive, longer detour in place. Again, it's just Monday through Friday. Weekends and evenings will be open. It's not a around-the-clock detour or construction zone, and that's for Route 28. I do want to touch upon South Shore Drive for this contract, which is down here. That is significantly more disruptive. There is some 24-hour-a-day closures that are happening down there because of deep excavation work. And while I said the end was in sight for this section on Route 28, there's still much more work to do on South Shore. So if you are here from a business or residence that's on South Shore, please give us your contact information for emails. I know the Chamber has also agreed to work with those people down there that are more affected so that we can get a good detailed distribution list because we will need to send regular updates with regards to the construction down there. That is going to be occurring through Memorial Day, which is in the contract. They're not allowed to work after Memorial Day on either Route 28 or South Shore, but it will continue into the fall down in that area and hopefully finish in the fall, but we'll have to see how quickly they make progress in the areas they're working as to whether that will be completed. So there is quite a bit more work to do down there. We have been focusing all of the excavation and impactful work on 28 to get that done as quickly as possible, but there is some lingering work that will be highly impactful, and we need to make sure we're also, like we're doing with all of you, very closely relaying information with regard to schedules for businesses and residents in that area. So.
I think the only other thing to add on Route 28 is I think it's safe to say that the contractor has agreed to not do that big detour during school vacation week. So they'll be doing some work on Route 28, but it won't be a full road closure.
Right, there are some smaller activities that can be done that, again, they can easily maneuver around the crews, those laterals, side connections, things like that. So not to stop work during that period, but to minimize impact on 28.
Yes, just real quick. Well, thank you for everything you guys are doing. We understand that Contract 3 is very challenging, and we have some major issues with that. And, like any big project, there's always some pain when you have progress. The pain is very tough. Saturday, March 8th, we'll be having, I think, a little parade coming through town. And it was just kind of like, is the road going to be hazardous for people to walk on? I mean, this is going to be a concern. We don't want to bring people that are hitting a drum and then falling down, on their face because of the lack of quality on the work on this contractor. So that's a big concern for a few people. Thank you.
Yeah, so the St. Patrick's Day Parade is one of those items that we've been talking about, and we'll continue to talk about it every one of our regular progress meetings with the contractor. There is some improvement to the pavement that can be done. As was mentioned by Robert Biauer, that's temporary paving that's in that area, but there is some improvements, even that temporary, that can be done and need to be done. And I think, most of the excavation for that route, that section of 28 was done on the north side of the road. So there might be some benefit to keeping floats and walkers to the south side. But we'll certainly try to improve and work with the contractor to improve those pavement conditions prior to the parade.
Hi, my name's Marie from Silver Cloud Towing. That was one of my main concerns is when they leave the section they're working on now and they go into the deeper section, are they going to do anything to the road? Because the difference of where Robert Biauer ends and the other contractor works is horrible. At least you can go over RBO's road and not hit your head on the top of the truck as you're bouncing down the road. The section where we're at, our trucks come in every day. These drivers, they're bouncing in the trucks, and they have customers in the trucks, and they're like, they're hitting their heads on the trucks because the road's so bad. And when the fire hydrant let go the other day, nobody's even come back to make that passable to the point. We watch cars go over there and not realizing how high it is. Their cars bottom out coming over there. Nobody's fixed it since then. Is it going to remain that way until they're done the deep end and we have to travel this for another 6 months? It's a hard road. The difference of the contractors is so different. Why can't our contractor fix what our road looks like and how we're traveling?
There will be some adjustments to the pavement, and specifically the location you're talking about will get fixed. One of the challenges that everyone's experiencing is this time of year there's no asphalt plants open on Cape Cod, so that has to be hauled in from off Cape, and because of that, the amount of asphalt that's brought in has to be an amount that can be used to patch and repair temporary areas in a reasonable quantity. So that will be happening very shortly, the repair on some of those sections. And that typically happens on a Thursday, Friday, towards the end of the week. But it is challenging for certain sections of that roadway, and they will be getting improved even in the temporary condition. And that example with the water main break is a perfect example of something that's going to get fixed in the short term.
Why didn't they fix it in the first place?
Do you want to talk about
Yeah,
that?
the break actually happened on a Sunday, so.
The whole road.
Oh.
The whole road. Do you ever hear a plow go over that road? You ever see the ambulance go bouncing down 28? It's unbelievable. People are getting back of the ambulance are hurt. And now you're bouncing people around the back of an ambulance? What's wrong with this guy? Why didn't you have Bobby Albert pave it, for crying out loud? It'd be a lot better.
There will be some improvements that are done to that section of temporary pavement.
No.
Yeah, where is the other contractor?
Where is Rivoli?
Well, what I will say is that none of the contractors are required to provide this kind of outreach.
So it's on
And-
you guys? They've thrown it on your shoulders?
Absolutely.
And the town's shoulders?
Yeah,
Take
so-
care of their mess?
Right. So we as a town are committed to doing this type of outreach as often as we
I'm
need
just
to.
saying, you're throwing it on your shoulders. They wrecked my property, they broke the windows in my building, they tore up my water main, they knocked the wires out of the building, and I said to the guy, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Oh, well." Oh, well is not the answer.
We've got 2 picture windows.
Broken.
We have big windows in our garage on across the street. I was standing there when they just took their bucket and hit the ground, and that asphalt came up, hit the window, and I got a big spider crack. That's a $2,500 window. You know, and nothing. No, I've no response from anybody. They're like, I said, "Are you going to fix it?" "Oh, well, we'll fix it in the spring. We'll fix it in the spring." They broke my irrigation. My water bill went astronomical because I didn't realize it was broken. "Oh, yeah, well, we can't find parts for that." And these are things we're getting from this company. Never mind the problem of the road, but the problem of the damage that they're doing.
Right. Yeah, please let us know about those damages so we can pursue the contractor or the affected parties with that. We're committed to following up and making sure that you're made whole, whether it's through their taking care of it with their crews or through an insurance claim. So just make sure you get that information to me.
Told him. He took and broke my irrigation system and then dumped the pipe back in the ground. So I turned the irrigation system on. All of a sudden, the water shooting out of my ground. He goes, "Oh, it's all fixed." He didn't fix it. He buried it.
Right. Yep. Please get us that information. One of the last things we'll have here is a wastewater@yarmouth.ma.us email. We'll also have some contact information for myself, Lori, and Ryan, and make sure we get that information so we can make sure that it gets followed up. You're not the only one affected by issues with the contractor, and we're committed to making sure that those get addressed one way or another. Right.
Has contract 5 and 6 been awarded yet?
They have not been awarded or have a signed contract with those. So those are still outstanding contracts
When do you expect that to happen?
this spring. Those should happen, signed and awarded this spring for work to start in the fall.
Are you required
Yes, sir.
to take the, are you required to take the low bid?
We are not required as a municipality to take the low bid if you have reason that the low bid is non-responsive or you've had a problem with them in the past. And I'll leave that at there. But you can kind of read between the lines with kind of how that works.
Jerry Manning from Captain Parker's. Who actually determines who gets the contracts? Who makes that decision, whether it's Robert Auer, Rivoli, or hopefully some new contractor? Because that Rivoli, it's a disgrace. I feel so bad for people along that road and driving that road. It's worse than being in the Gaza Strip. It's terrible. I mean, it's beyond. I know you're in the middle, but you know you have to speak for us. I don't see any selectmen here today. Who is? I know you're in a difficult situation, but we're really suffering. I know you realize that, but if that company gets awarded another contract, that's just ludicrous.
I will say just generally how the process works is once bids are opening, we have a owner's project manager as well as a design engineer. They make a recommendation. They look at all of the past work that they've done. They talk with their references and they make a recommendation. And so far for the 3 contracts that have been awarded, we've followed those recommendations of that design team and project managers. Going forward, I'm sure that current work that's being done will be reflected in those recommendations and the ultimate awards. The town is the one that ultimately awards that. We had no reason not to award it to all the contractors that are working based upon the due diligence that was done previously, but obviously we now have more experience. And I'll leave it at that. Any other questions about anything wastewater? Tom?
Yes, thank you. So what would be the drop dead date for Mr. Rivoli to go over the big bridge?
That particular contract has a completion date of Memorial Day, or just before Memorial Day of '26. That was based upon kind of original conditions, and we're not allowed to shrink those. We can not extend it, but we're not allowed to shrink that. They're on schedule to meet that date, and as I mentioned before, they're on schedule to complete that water and sewer work in Route 28 in early March at this point. And then the big unknown piece, frankly, to be completely transparent, is South Shore Drive. There's quite a bit of deep, extensive work down there, and several of the roads along that stretch, like Judon Way and others, get connected as part of this project.
Yeah, I'll be more than happy to go out there with my hand shovel and help them along.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Tom.
If I can just say, for those of you who don't know me, my name's Mary. I'm the president of the Yarmouth Chamber, and we attend the progress meetings every other week. So if you have concerns, you can contact the town, you can call the chamber. We're here to advocate for you, and we have done our best. The town staff will tell you in those meetings, I'm not shy about speaking up, and I have done that since this project has started. The town is doing everything they can to expedite this project as quickly as possible. But it's really important that when you have your concerns about the signage, about what's happening in your building with the contractor, they need to hear from you, not just at these meetings, but in between. Contact them if you have an issue so that they know about it right when it's happening.
Yeah, that's a great point, and probably the next slide, maybe, unless you want to talk something about this, but we do have the contact information, and we do want to get regular feedback. As I mentioned before, and Mary just did a great job, anything that can be improved for either what they're working on now or going forward into contracts 5 and 6, we want to figure out how to make that happen. Was there another question, hand?
I just want to talk about, when we get to, when you're finished up, I want to make sure we can talk about what we've experienced so far in our businesses along 28, since it's been blocked off since September most of the time. And I just still haven't figured out when we can start to talk about that.
Okay, I would say that's now. If you don't have any specific questions about the contracts, want to talk generally, what I do want to say, and we'll leave this screen up here, is we want to push people to send us an email at wastewater@yarmouth.ma.us. We have multiple people monitoring that email, so we'll be very responsive. There's also the telephone number, which is 508-771-7921. That's always been the water line. It is staffed during the week by someone that'll pick up the phone from the administrative team at the water. But now that we're heading into wastewater, we're looking to refocus people that that's not just for water issues, water emergencies, it's also for wastewater now. So going forward, we'll have a wastewater infrastructure that if you have concerns, issues, anything pops up that even is considered an emergency, that telephone number is not only staffed during the day, but there's a mailbox after hours and even an opportunity once you get into that system to call, to be transferred to the answering service. So you can get a live person 24/7 by calling that number. And we just want to make sure people are aware of that. So, yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm Kathleen from the Picket Fence Vintage right on 28 next to the Old Irish Village. And regretfully, we have a contractor that isn't very accommodating, but some of the things that we've had to deal with, and we will still have continued closures. So I want to know what we're going to do to fix it going forward. As I said to Mary quite a while ago, and I sent letters to all of our representatives, Senator Sear is the only one that has gotten back to me saying he's not sure what he's going to do, but he would be happy to sit down with whoever would like to talk to him. So we have a meeting set up next week. But who is making this, I don't know the gentleman's name, who owns the company right in that area. It's not Robert Biawa that's doing it. I know you guys are very accommodating, but the gentleman that's got our contract, who's that?
Rivoli.
what's his name?
Rivoli.
Rivoli. We have dealt with them telling that their flag people, the flaggers, or their signs, businesses are closed. No, you can't. No, you cannot drive your car across the street from Couches to Candlesticks to my shop. No, you can't. You have to park across the street. As I said, we've had flaggers tell people that are trying to get to our business, oh, all those businesses are closed. I've had regulars that shop at the shop all the time call me. This has been going on since September and even in the fall. We have lost thousands and thousands of dollars of business, which I'm sure a lot of you others have, and I'm kind of speaking collectively. What is being done to make that contractor accountable for what he's doing? Who's making him accountable for not allowing people to come into our shop? There are detour signs from Seaview Ave all the way down to sometimes Ocean, or all the way down to where the Dairy Queen is, and there is no work being done. I can tell you weeks and days, and I got pictures, not one truck from Seaview all the way down to Dairy Queen. What's that about? Because they might have one construction truck going down from one lot to a next, so they have to block that all off? Why? Why is that being blocked off? I have regulars that come to my shop saying, or calling me saying, Kathleen, I can't get there. There's no signs. I have been experienced it myself. I live here. I know where I'm going. But you get a detour off of 28, and there's not one damn sign once you get off 28. I had somebody coming from Dennis, and I told her, she said, well, I went to the detour behind the town hall, and there isn't one sign. Nope, there wasn't one sign. How the people from Harwich get stuck behind the town hall? They don't know how to get out. A lot of people don't have ways. I have been proactive before you even started with the town hall or the chamber. What can I do? I want to post on my account. These are the detours. It's not the detours that are set up that they say they're going to have. These are the detours. That's not what's being set up. I don't want to get too upset, but I will pass this on.
My name is Dan Rita. I own Bass River Chiropractic right across the street from her. And it's been a nightmare. We've just had hundreds of patient visits that can't get in. Little Susie called yesterday. I've been trying for 45 minutes to get there. I'm going home now. People have to get to work. People have to pick up their kids. It's been a nightmare, and she's correct that if you would just run the roadblock, you could just drive down the street and pull into my place or her place. But they've got these detour signs set up. And when you see police and flashing lights and signs, people are intimidated. You know, they're not willing to just drive past because they can get to where they need to go. And if they try to ask a question, they typically just go.
Dismissive.
If you could train these flaggers and police to say, and maybe even post signs, ask the officer how to get here. You know, that it's been amazingly frustrating. And, you know, I was at the first meeting in September, which is a friendly meeting. This meeting is not quite as friendly.
No, those are all good suggestions. I will say that both the telephone number and email, as soon as you're aware of an issue, let us know, because we have direct contact with the police department that sets up the detours and the details, and we will make sure that that gets corrected if any of these issues do arise in the future as soon as they're brought to our attention. I do purposefully, because of some of the feedback we've been getting, try to drive through and navigate the detours every day to check, but we can't always know what everyone experiences. But as soon as we hear about that through the contact information here, again, it's the telephone number is a great one to get an immediate person, and even the wastewater email is monitored by multiple people every day. We'll address that immediately.
Can I just jump in real quick? A couple things to add. I know Monday detours were a disaster. I tried to follow one myself, and I ended up lost. And I'm in charge here, or not in, I know what's going on. So that immediately we called the contractor and made him move signs. So if we know about it, we can get them to address it more readily. So call. I have my card here. You can call me directly if you want. This phone number on here is that number. So if you just want the number, take my card. So that's one part. What the police put up for the detour maps, there's specific signs that should be at each intersection. And I do know that sometimes those signs don't happen. Not you guys, of course, the other guys. So if it's not right, let us know. They're saying their signs have been stolen and things, but we're on them for that as best as we can. The other thing is, I know, especially your business is kind of in the middle there. We're closing the road an extended distance because we can't have the people who are going through town get to the actual work and then have to turn around and go back all the way around. That's why the whole road is closed, even though you can go by it. That's the reason, because we can't have a tractor trailer get to where they're working and have to turn around. So that's why we have to detour them way in advance of some of the work. So I just want to put that out there for an understanding of what's going on there.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to elaborate on what this woman was saying about being closed at Seaview. We're so close to Seaview to get in. Sometimes they won't even let our trucks come by. They'll stop us and say, nope, you got to go around. Well, you want us to go around? We tow for the police departments. I mean, we're bringing in cars where we have customers trying to come in and get their cars. They can't get in because they won't let them by. And they say, well, I got to pick up my car. Well, you can't. Now it sits there another night, and the customer's mad because now they got to pay another day of storage because the flaggers wouldn't let them by to get in. When we get there and we explain, there's our shop right there. We have to bring this car in. No, you can't go down the road. Well, we're going down the road. That's our business. I mean, we have to drop. We got to go on another call. We can't drop a car off on somebody else's property that's a police towing. They've got to be educated to say, okay, if we're giving them an explanation and say, look, you can see our shop right from Seaview, we have to go by. And some of them won't let us go by. And then the drivers turn around, and then it takes them another 30 minutes to be able to go do the detour and come back and come up the other way. And it's a lot of time, money, not just for us, but for the customers out there that we tow in.
Yeah, that shouldn't be happening. We'll do a renewed effort to educate the flaggers and communicate with the police that shouldn't be happening. Everybody should be able to get to where they need to go. It just might be from a different direction depending on where the actual excavation is. But if they're not excavating, between you and the business, you should be able to go through. There should be no reason you can't.
And I'd just like to say, I'm part of the project as far as communications. The biggest thing that we can ask is that if something happens, call then as soon as you can. Because if you're being stopped from a truck coming in, if somebody can call us, we can get somebody down there. I know the police department is doing their best, especially in that area, to make sure that the flaggers are paying attention and doing what they need to do. But if something, right, because they're not police, because the police can be told immediately over radio. But if you let us know, but let us know too. Don't stop. Let us know, because that will help us get out there and talk to the flaggers. The police department will call the flaggers and make sure that they understand, let people through it, because when it makes sense. So, please let us know. All right, there's so many hands. Let me
make a quick suggestion. I'm sure the police are working really hard, and I respect everything that they do, but they should be at this meeting. Because it's not fair for the three of you to take all of this when it's not all of you doing all of the work. We can set aside the select board, we can set aside the town administrator, and I understand how hard the police work. But in the spirit of we're all working together, which is really what this whole project is about, I think it would help if Mike was here, because he should also be hearing this, and respectfully, I understand there's bi-weekly progress meetings, but we're here today in this structure, which we appreciate you setting up, but in the spirit of just collective work and all getting along and making this project smooth, I would hope that you could ask, request, demand that just the police come and hear this feedback live. And look, I'm a customer of the salon right behind Picket Fence, and I know where I'm going, and it still takes me 20 extra minutes to go get my hair done.
Julie.
Again, these are good problems to have, but they're also not good problems to have, because I'm somebody that can understand how to get around. I feel terribly for the people from other towns, much less, dare I say, the wilds of Yarmouthport. that are trying to get around on Route 28. So again, I respect, and I think we all do, the amount of work the police do, but for them not to be here is not great.
Well, we'll make sure,
And I understand people have schedules.
point well taken. We will make sure we do that invite for next
Again,
meeting.
You three are all working incredibly hard, so I wanted to just be clear that we understand it's not just the three of you, except that in the room in real time, you're the ones taking all this feedback, when honestly, it's about educating flaggers and about detours, which is not really maybe the best use of the three of your time, when it really is the police department.
We'll make sure that Mike gets an invite.
Good comment, thank you.
Who's that's next, sir?
I just wanted to bring up something about safety. With the detours, I know the police are handling those, but as far as road closures, ambulances and stuff can get through if they need to, or do they need to take a detour? And the other question was along the same lines. It won't be long until J1 students are here who do not have driver's licenses and have to result in bicycles and scooters, and the added distractions of the construction could tend to be fatal for some of these kids. So I'm just wanted to bring that up and see if you could speak to that concern.
Yeah, that's a good comment. The last piece first is the big push the next couple of months till the March timeframe to make sure we get the most impactful, disruptive construction done, so that it's shallower, easier, more simple water connections or something like that that's happening that should be less of an issue for walkers or bikers or even drivers. And the first piece is that's actually one of the reasons when it comes to the ambulance or emergency vehicle access that police have taken the lead on setting up the detours, because that's communicated throughout their network as in real time as it changes to all of the police departments and all of the ambulances. One of the reasons to wait until now essentially to do that deepest work and the biggest detour was because emergency vehicles needed to have this major corridor to the hospital free and open to them for the most part. So that's actually, without getting into too much detail, that's actually why the traffic heading west was allowed for most of the season up until now, because the emergency vehicles get through, have a smooth, quick response to the to get for all the Down Cape communities to get to the hospital, rather than having to take a larger detour. The need to take the larger detour is going to be communicated to them by police and fire, but we're trying to minimize how long that happens.
I know at one point they were directing traffic. Sorry. Hello. At one point they were directing traffic through the parking lot where Couches to Candlesticks is. And there's a food pantry there with families and little kids, and there's a church, and there's also Consigning Kids, which is specifically a store for children. So, I was concerned about the redirection that way. If that was something, I don't know if the town even knew about, or if it was just they took it upon themselves to do that.
Yeah, I'm not even aware of the use of private parking lots like that. That shouldn't be happening. Maybe there's just an emergency comes up and it needs to happen for a very short period of time. I wasn't aware that was happening, but that use of private parking lots like that shouldn't be happening throughout the project. If there's no other questions, we'll be sticking around. I know Abby and Mike and myself and Lori and Ryan, of course, will be here if you want to meet individually, talk about your specific circumstance, review the plan in more detail. I do appreciate you coming today. It's really good to get this feedback, even if it's difficult to hear, but we need to know that so we can make it better going forward. So thank you.
Sullivan, Communications Manager. You're Brian.